Okay.
Okay, so now I'm going to say, got it. Okay. So, thank you everybody for showing up. I'm glad that you're all here. The topic today is sort of exciting to me. It's about, dominating your market, and, attempting to become a household name. I know that, as we go around town, it's a small town, and we have a lot of friends and people that we know, that are here in Big Bear that we recognize when we go to the grocery store, when we're out at the ball fields with our kids and different things like that. But from a professional standpoint, to become a household name and to become recognized within your market from a professional standpoint is a very, very powerful tool in dominating your market and helping your business. I think, that is sort of the goal for a lot of real estate agents, maybe not all agents, but most agents. And I have to ask you the question, why wouldn't you want sellers to call you and say, hey, come list my house? Why would you not want to have buyers call you and say, hey, we want you to represent us buying our next house? I mean, we want them to call us. I mean, who doesn't want that? Most people would die to have that happen. It would save a lot on advertising, and it would save a lot on mailers, and it would save a lot on other things. Well, honestly, I can think of two groups of agents that might not be interested in becoming a household name. And the two of them are, the two groups are, agents that have really low goals, where they don't have to really work too hard to achieve them. I mean, if somebody's goal is to do a sale now and then, and there's not anything real specific that they're after, they really don't have to work at dominating their market and becoming a household name to achieve that. The other group of people is a little bit more concerning, and that's people that lack either the patience and the resolve to work over a certain period of time or a long period of time to become a household name. People that are not willing to delay gratification. So, going into that, one of the things that I'll share with you about real estate sales is that delayed gratification is part of what our business is all about. We don't get paid until the deal closes at the very end. I know a lot of people, when they first get into real estate, if they come from salaried positions or if they come from hourly wage positions, they are not real happy to work for 3 weeks and not to get a paycheck. That's when we first start selling real estate. We work a lot longer than a month before we receive our first paycheck. And so this idea of delayed gratification is sort of inherent with what we do in real estate brokerage and in real estate sales. So delayed gratification is a good thing. And I always point that out to the hourly people that, complain about it, is that, very few people get a $5,000 check or a $15,000 check or a $25,000 check at the end of the week. So the rewards for delayed gratification are really good. Well, the rewards for delayed gratification in making your name a household name in your market and dominating it over time is even more profitable than just getting a $25,000 check every time you get a closing, or a $15,000 check. The rewards for delaying gratification and dominating your market are rather large. So, I'll point, out, as I don't know Sarah's goals necessarily, and I know a little bit about Flosta's. I'm not sure what Clinton's goals are now. I know Mary's, and I don't know Aunt Jeanette's. So I can't decide what your goals are, and I can't determine how willing you are to delay gratification to achieve maximum success. All I can really do is give you some ideas and some techniques and some principles that you can adopt into your business if you want to dominate your market or this market and you want to become wildly successful. So I'm going to start out and talk about something that you guys have all heard before: personal branding. Everybody's probably heard that phrase, personal branding, before. Sarah, Mary, Clinton, you guys are all in the personal services business. That's your business. Who you are is your business, and what people say about you is what your branding is all about. So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. Tell me what comes to mind when you hear these names. Tiger Woods. I heard a laugh there. Tom Cruise.
Top Gun.
Tim Wood, Elon Musk, Sarah Palin, Sarah Silverman, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Serena Williams. So as I run through those names, it's sort of a two-part or a two-component question. The first one is do you know who these people are? And I think the answer for most of them is yes. Probably the most obscure, I think, for this group is probably Sarah Silverman. Does anybody know who Sarah Silverman is? She's a comedian. The second part is, how would you describe each of those persons? So I'll start with Ann Jeanette. How would you describe Elon Musk?
Tech entrepreneur.
Okay. Clinton, how would you describe Tiger Woods?
Dedicated.
Okay. So the point of me sharing this, this idea with you about, who these people are that are household names and how you describe them, is that how you describe them, or how most people describe them, is their personal brand, their reputation. They have a persona. They have created an image within the marketplace that is marketable. Okay. So the next question would be, does the public know you? That's a good question to write down in your notes. Does the public know you? And how would the public describe you if they were talking to somebody else that didn't know you? That's what we want to work on. That's the personal brand that we want to be working on. And we want it to be something that's compelling enough that when people hear about you, whether it's from your marketing or whether it's the word of mouth of other people, is that it gets people interested in calling you to help them with their business, okay? So for the next 45 minutes or so, I'm going to share with you a bunch of seemingly random ideas and principles that we will talk about in order for you to, come up with a plan to build your own personal brand and recognition going forward. Okay. So the first thing I want you to write down when we start talking about personal branding is to create an attractive, client-focused message. Okay. I give people the examples of, there's a lot of people that are in real estate. But if their personal brand is they happen to be a soccer mom who happens to be a realtor, that's not a bad reputation, but it's not the kind of reputation or personal branding that would dominate your market. I go back to a situation that I observed here in this office, gosh, it was probably about 30 years ago, is that there was a couple that owned property here in town on the lake. The gentleman's name was Dr. Leisky. Dr. Leisky was here for a lot of years. I think I see Sarah shaking her head. I mean, very well-known person here. And Dr. Leisky and his wife owned a house down on Waterview. And they were very, very involved in the community. And, part of Seroptimist and part of Rotary and, involved in the high school and, a real big practice, in town. And so they knew a lot of real estate people. But they started working with Tim Wood. Tim Wood is the person that sold their house for them. And they did not socialize with Tim. And they did not spend a lot of time with Tim, but they knew who he was and his personal brand. And his personal brand was all about business. And so when the time came for them to sell their house, I don't even want to use the person's name that was really upset, but there was an agent that worked here in the office that socialized with them for years that didn't get the call to come list me. Tim got the call to come list me. And their reason is because the message that Tim presented professionally was that he was the best agent for the job of selling a lakefront home in Big Bear Lake. And that's what these folks wanted. They wanted the best agent to do that. So when I talk about creating an attractive client-focused message, when it's related to your business, you want to have a reputation that you can get the job done, that you're going to do it in a good manner, that you're going to do it in a professional manner, that it's going to be fair price-wise. Does that make sense, everybody? That's the reputation that you want. You don't want them to think of you as a realtor as an afterthought, okay? So there's some things that you can choose in your personal branding, and this is sort of a different kind of idea, and it's to choose how you're going to compete. There are 3 different ways that we can compete in our marketplace. One is by cutting edge technology or cutting edge service. Couple of examples of that would be Apple. You know, Apple has this image of being the best product that's out there on the market for smartphones and other technology, audio and things. Starbucks would be another example of cutting edge type of coffee. Now, I think there's probably some people that would argue that there's better coffee out there somewhere else, but Apple and Starbucks share that. Tesla has the example of being cutting edge in the electric vehicle market. Does everybody agree with that? Is that those would be people that would be considered to be cutting edge, okay? So that's one way that you can compete. Another way that you can compete is to be a complete solution brand, which is a one-stop shop kind of thing. That means when somebody comes to you, you can help them with all the things that they need to do. An example of that would be going to interiors up here. If you're decorating your house, you could go into interiors up here. They have contractors that they can refer you to help you with changes that you're going to make to your house. They will sell you furniture. They will sell you decorating. They'll sell you wallpaper. They'll come in and they'll actually do the design. So you can go into that one location and they can help you with a total solution. It's not like you're going to one place to buy a refrigerator, one place to buy some hardwood floor. You can go there and you can get everything that you want in that one spot. Another example of a complete solution brand would be big law firms. I hope nobody in here has really had to deal with too many attorneys, but if you go to a big law firm, they have specialists that deal with tax laws. They have people that deal with criminal law. They have people that deal with corporate law. And so you can go to one firm that will be able to help you in a wide variety of legal issues. Does that make sense? Everybody on that? Okay. So you've got cutting edge brands or cutting edge technology. You have a complete solution option. And then the final way that you can compete is on price. And basically, the easiest way to describe that is whoever has the lowest price wins. Walmart would be an example of that. Target would be an example of that. Discount Realty would be an example of that, okay? I hope that we don't choose as realtors. I mean, I'm hoping that that's not the way that we choose to compete is on price, because if you compete on price, then whoever's willing to do it for the least amount of money is the one that wins. And I don't think that that's the right thing for us. Okay, so I'm going to share a couple of ideas with you on cutting edge brands. Okay, one way that you can be a cutting edge brand type of agent in real estate is to have very elaborate websites. You can use very high quality video touring for people. It's just putting an extraordinary amount of time and attention into your marketing, into the tools that you use to communicate with people. Instead of using the basic CMA idea that you have in the MLS. A better example of being sort of a cutting edge brand is if you did your listing presentations over Zoom with your clients and you used how to share your screen and use a PowerPoint to do that presentation. That's cutting edge compared to calling somebody up on the phone and just having a conversation with them. Does that make sense? So there's some examples that we can do about cutting edge things. High quality video tours. Another example, and I don't see this very often, but Matterport is that product that's out there that will actually do the floor plans of the houses, and you can do a virtual walkthrough through the houses. Very few people do that up here. I don't see it very often, even in some other markets. But if you adopt cutting edge things like that, that would make you one of those agents that's competing with with cutting edge. And so during your listing presentation, you would be talking about the tools and the values that you are providing for your customer. You would not be advertising a cut commission if you're providing those kind of services. Make sense? Okay. An example, and I think most of us are the example in here, and I think probably Jonathan and his team right now is probably doing this better than anybody else that's on this call, is the cutting edge service that they're providing. I know that they're doing some staging for their listings. Okay, so that is an example of giving a complete solution. Not only will I list your house and market your house, but I'll stage your house and I'll decorate your house. I'll show up for these appointments and do these other kinds of things for you when you're not here in town. So that would be an example of providing a total solution. Okay, and everybody knows about the cost-cutting example. So think about that for a second. There's really 3 ways to compete: being cutting edge, being a complete and total solution, and the last one is on cost. Okay, it's really hard to compete in all of the areas at the same time. How can you provide cutting edge technology and compete on price? How can you do that? Okay. To be a complete solution type of agent really almost requires you to be a part of a team. And that's one of the things that I like about the teams, is that it allows you to have time off so that you can have a balanced life. It allows you to be in 2 or 3 different places at once, right? I mean, right now you guys are on this call getting training. Okay, you guys are all doing that. What if somebody calls on a listing right now? What if somebody calls on one of your signs? What if somebody calls and says, hey, I want to, I want to list my house, and you guys are tied up in this? It's really hard to be available all the time when you're not part of a team to do a wide variety of things at the same time. I hope that makes sense. Okay, and I think that's one of the reasons why teams have become so big in the real estate market, is that it does allow a complete solution, which means that you as an agent, or your team, if you guys are operating as an agent, is somebody's always available, somebody's always taking care of the paperwork, somebody's always available to answer questions, somebody's always available to be showing property. That seems to be the way that teams are competing, is to be the total solution. So just some things to think about there. So any questions so far? Any thoughts on that so far? Okay. The next thing that I wanted to talk to you about was unique selling proposition, or USP. Has anybody ever heard that phrase before, USP? Okay. The idea behind a unique selling proposition is that you want to have something that is different. There was a book that came out probably 20 years called The Purple Cow. Has anybody ever read the book, The Purple Cow? I guess that dates me because I read it a long time ago. Okay, well, imagine this. You're driving down the highway and you look out the window, and you're somewhere in Germany driving down the Autobahn, and you look out the window and there's a darn purple cow on the side of the road. I bet you would probably point out that fact to every single person in the car. Hey, did you see that purple cow there on the side of the road? Why would it catch your attention? It's because you don't often see a purple cow on the side of the road. You see brown ones and you see white ones, okay? But you don't see purple ones very often. That would be something that would be different, that would catch your eye, okay? Now imagine after 3 weeks of driving through Germany, all you see are purple cows, and every time you're driving down the Autobahn, all you see are purple cows. Would you still be telling everybody in your car, hey, did you see that purple cow? The answer would be no, because purple cows now become normal. So how does this apply to real estate sales? Okay, think about this. So you're out on a listing presentation and somebody says, when you list your home with me, I'm going to put your home in the MLS. When you list your home with me, I'm going to put a for sale sign in front of your yard. When you list your home with me, we're going to put a lockbox on your house so people have the ability to get into the house. What do you think's going on in the mind of the seller? I've interviewed 5 real estate agents, and all of them so far are going to put a for sale sign in my yard, a lockbox on my house, and they're going to put it into the MLS. Nothing unique about your presentation. So if there's nothing unique about your presentation, and you're exactly the same as all 5 agents that they've interviewed, what do you think they're going to do to decide which agent to list with? And I'll let anybody chime in.
The one with the lowest commission.
Oh, one with the lowest commission. So Jonathan said that, and Jeanette said that. Absolutely. When there's nothing unique or compelling about you, you don't stand out because there's nothing unique. And the other thing is that when nobody's unique, the only thing that people are going to be looking at is price. So I would sort of stress to you that right now, all of the things that we're hearing from, our clients saying, hey, what's your commission? What's your commission? And fighting over commission is because in the mind of the customers, they haven't seen or heard anything from us that makes us unique enough or valuable enough that they would choose to use us without trying to compare our price to the other people. We don't stand out enough. Does that make sense? Okay. So I'm going to give you 2 real life example stories from my own career. And I don't say this to brag, it's just that I know my examples better than I know other people's. Is that, about 25 years ago, the movie theater up here started advertising before the movies. They would have, like a slide that would be on the screen, would sort of run through before the movies. And back in 1991, I believe, at a sales meeting, they talked about that program, and I decided to go ahead and do it. And I think it was $100 a month. It wasn't really all that much money, but it was one thing that I did. And so when people went to the movie theater, they would see a slide with my name or my team and, different marketing that was up there. And I think when I first started it, there was one other real estate agent that was in that deal. I had a couple of really good years. At the end of 2 years of doing that program, I would go to the movie and there would be 25 agents that were advertising on the movie theater screen before the movie theater. And so what had happened was something that was unique of seeing a real estate agent advertise before the movie every single weekend now was not unique anymore. Does that make sense? And so it didn't really work. That's one example. The second example is back in the heyday of that same time period of 1992, or actually this goes back to 2002, 2003. Everybody would do a lot of advertising, print advertising in what was called a Homes magazine, which was a small digest guide. It was a small one. And the market was going so crazy that for a period, I think of about 2 years, I did a digest guide. I did a small one. I think I probably was carrying 25, 30 listings at a time. And so I could fill that up. And I did 3 or 4 of those a year. And I think it cost me $5,000 every time I did, 2 or 3,000 of those things. So it was a $25,000 commitment pretty much each year to do that digest guide magazine. What was unique about it was not that there weren't other magazines around town, but I was the only real estate team that had their own magazine. And so, I put them out in some various places with the chamber and some different things, but where it really worked out for me was every time I walked into a listing presentation, I would talk to the seller and I would say, here's what makes me unique is that there's a lot of different, teams out there and a lot of different people doing things. However, my team is the only one that does this listing magazine. We have our own listing magazine, and I would hand it to them and they would look at it. I think for a period of 2 years, I never walked out of a listing presentation without taking the listing. And I took a lot of them. And I think a lot of it had to do with that listing magazine. Do you know what's interesting about it? Is that over 2 years, I can attribute one sale to that magazine. I can only attribute one buyer sale. That's basically $50,000 of advertising that I did over a 2-year period where I can attribute one closed sale, and it probably was a $10,000 commission if I remember correctly. But it wasn't the one sale, it wasn't the buyers that I was marketing to. I was marketing a unique selling proposition to sellers, and it worked very, very well. So these are the types of ideas that you want to be looking for, or things that are unique. You know, advertising in a space where there is nobody else advertising, like at the movie theater in the very beginning, or offering a product or an advertising source or a service that nobody else is marketing, because all of a sudden that makes you unique. So a couple of other things that you need to consider as you're going through this purple cow idea or something that's very unique is that you need to know your customers. You need to know what they want. I can't think of an example of something that people don't want, you know, off the top of my head. I probably should have thought of that ahead of time. But, you know, if you're offering a unique selling proposition, it's got to be something that creates at least some value in the minds of your customers. So being the best guitar player in Big Bear that's a realtor is no value to is no value to our sellers, right? Okay, so that shouldn't be part of my presentation. An advertising idea, a service like doing the home staging like Jessica's team is doing, those are things that create value in the eyes of the customer. So you want to talk with your customers and try and find out what's of value to them, and then find a way to provide something that nobody else is providing in the marketplace to them. Does that make sense? Any questions or any ideas that you guys want to share on that? That's part of the good thing about Zoom is you guys get to interact. Well, I see smiles, but I don't see any interaction. Okay, there we go. Okay. The other thing is that it's important that you know your competition. You need to know what your competition is doing. Okay. That's how I know about the staging. I know that Jessica's team is doing staging because I've heard some of her clients talk about them doing that. You want to know what your customers are doing, what your customers are saying. You want to know who's discounting commissions, and you want to be able to express to your clients why your unique selling proposition is more beneficial to them than somebody's 1% price cut, a $5,000 price cut in commission. If you can document how you're going to present their property in a way or negotiate on their behalf in a way that's more profitable than that $5,000, that could be a tall order. Make sense? I mean, that could be a pretty tall order to say, well, I'm going to do this and this and this, and that's going to get you a higher sales price than me cutting my commission $5,000 like the competition is doing. It takes a little bit of creativity. Okay, so we talked about unique selling proposition. The other thing that I want to talk to you about is consistency and repetition. And I always like using real life examples of how consistency is something that will work on your behalf. Going back, 30 years, working for Tim Wood, one of the things that he did over that period was he did a calendar. It was a monthly calendar that he sent to lakefront property owners here in town. Not only did he send it to the lakefront people, but he sent it to the people across the street from the lake. That was his idea, was to send to that market. And the reason that he wanted to send his mailers to lakefront and across the street from the lake is that a postage stamp costs the same, whether you're sending it to Sugarloaf or whether you're sending it to a lakefront. And at the time, the cabins that were selling in Sugarloaf were about $70,000, and the properties on the lake were $500,000. So the same stamp that you send to the lakefront gets you about a 7 or 8 time return than if you send it to Sugarloaf. Okay, same stamp, much bigger commission. And he sent that calendar out every single month for all the time that I knew him, and he did it long before I ever started working for him. And it was a very, very simple calendar. The calendar had a motivational quote on it that was about this big, the top of the page, and then there was a 30-day calendar at the bottom of the page that had different events of things that were happening in Big Bear that next month. There'd be a car show this weekend, there'd be the 4th of July fireworks this weekend. So he would have a calendar of events for Big Bear at the bottom, and he would have a motivational quote at the top. I can't tell you how many times we walked into a house to do a listing presentation, and that calendar would be either on the refrigerator door, or the motivational quote that had come from that calendar had been cut out and had been taped somewhere in the house. And, Tim, when I asked him about that, because they were like $1 a piece, these darn calendars, between the postage and the printing and all of that, which was pretty expensive 30 years ago to be spending, $2,500 a month on that farm, is that he said, even if they throw it away, they're throwing it away every single month. They're throwing my name away every single month. Now think about that. They're throwing him away. A lot of people would say, well, that's a waste of money. They threw me away every single month for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. But what happens is when people throw you away every single month, when it comes time to sell, they remember the guy that they threw away every single month. Does that make sense? Okay, so I learned, and I learned sales and marketing stats. I'm looking at this from Jonathan. Sales and marketing stats say that it takes 16 plus touches before customer engages. I would agree with that. So I'll work to that one. Is I wrote down this note: 3 FTF, 8 telephone calls, and 20 mailing pieces. And the 3 FTF stands for 3 face-to-face contacts. If I see somebody that I don't know 3 times and have a conversation with them and tell them what I do and have a conversation about real estate, they're going to remember, because of those 3 face-to-face contacts, they're going to remember who I am and what I do because they've met me. They may not remember you the first time. There's a chance they'll remember you after the second time, but after the third time you have that conversation with them, they will remember you. They will remember you. The number goes up to 8 telephone calls. Okay, so when you've talked with somebody 8 times, they will definitely remember who you are and what you do because they've talked with you before. It can take up to as many as 20 mailing pieces for them to remember who you are and what you do. Okay, so there's something that's a little bit interesting in those statistics 3, 8, and 20 that I want to point out. And it is this: is that if I have a face-to-face conversation and I say, hey, my name is Mark Dolan, I'm a RE/MAX real estate agent and I sell real estate, is there anything I can do to help you? Let's say I knock on their door and say that, and they slam the door in my face. That's pretty painful, right? It's pretty painful. If I call them up on the phone and I say, hey, this is Mark Dolan, I'm a RE/MAX realtor and I'd like to help you buy or sell. Is there anything I can do to help you at this time? And they hang up on me. That's painful, but not quite as painful as that long walk back from the front door to my car, right? Right? It's really painful to walk away with your tail between your legs. That's why nobody door knocks up here. Not only is there not a lot of people at home, but they don't really want the walk of shame walking away from the house after the door's been slammed on them. A lot of people don't call because they can't handle being hung up on because there's rejection there. Okay? When you send a mailing piece out and the people don't open it, or they don't, they take 8 seconds to look at it and then they throw it away, you've been rejected, but it's not really that painful, right? It's not personally painful. It's painful to the pocketbook because it costs money, but there's no personal pain in the personal rejection from a mailer that gets thrown away. So the principle that I'm trying to share with you is the greater rejection that you get, or the greater rejection that you're willing to accept in your sales business, the greater the results are going to be for you and the faster those results come to you. Real life story, and it's sort of a goal for all of you, is that One of the agents that worked for me back at Realty Executives and worked here at Remax, it's no longer working in Big Bear now, was a very, very outgoing, friendly guy. He was into boating, he was into skiing, he was into bike riding. Just a really nice person to talk to, and could talk about a lot of different subjects with a lot of different people. And he happened to be a realtor. And when the real estate market was really good, he would do well because he knew a lot of people. When the real estate market was not good, he didn't do very well because all of the people that he knew weren't buying or selling. And I noticed something that was really interesting is whenever we would go skiing or we would go out somewhere, he would hand his card to the guy that was next to us on the ski lift. And because we had something in common, we were skiing, and he'd say, here's my card. And he would talk to them about skiing. He wouldn't talk about real estate. And I thought about how different it was for him versus for me. And the difference is this: can you walk up to somebody and risk the rejection by saying, hi, my name is Jonathan, I'm a Remax real estate agent, and I'm here to sell your house or to talk to you about how I can sell your house, independent of I'm a bike rider and we have something in common. Oh, by the way, I sell real estate. Okay. In order to dominate our market, in order to become a household name, we have to be able to present to the public that we have an image and a brand of being excellent at real estate. That it's not an afterthought to our skiing. It's not an afterthought to our boating. It's not an afterthought to our soccer coaching and our kids. I mean, we want to lead with our career and our professionalism and have that message attractive to those customers, independent of anything else that we are. And that takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of practice with your scripts. It takes a lot of practice with your overcoming objection handlers. It also requires you to be able to handle rejection, because if you go up to somebody and say, hey, I'm a realtor first, last, and always, and I'd like to help you, would you like to talk to me? And they say no, you have to be okay with that. Make sense? Okay. So we talked about they throw me away every single month, the consistency of that. We talked about the rejection of the face-to-face, the telephone calls, and the mailing pieces. The last part that I want to do about that repetition is the value of time related to marketing. And it's also sort of the value of time related into trying to become a household name. I mentioned that I learned really well from Tim when I left him, is that I recognized, well, the price of a stamp on the lakefront is the same as it is in Sugarloaf. So I learned that from him. And I knew that the commissions were higher, but I also knew that he had a foothold in the lakefront market and the across the street from the lake market. But I decided to compete with him anyway. And my figure was this, is that, he was going to get the vast majority of the business in that market. But I thought I would do okay if I just came in second. If I came in second, not everybody on the lakefront market was going to use Tim. So if I could come in second, I figured I would be able to get a pretty good living out of that market. So I decided to do a different mailer. I didn't do the same mailer in that lakefront market. What I decided to do was send just solds. Every time there was a sold in the lakefront market across the street, every month I would send out a mailer that would talk about that sale. And it cost me $1,000 a month to do it. So that first month, or that first year, I committed to spending $12,000 in that marketplace. In that first year that I did it, I earned, I'm going to say $54,000 in commissions in that first year. I took a listing that sold and I had a buyer sale in that market, and I earned $54,000. So it cost me $12,000 to make $54,000. That's not a bad return, but I had to start spending the $1,000 a month before. I had to do it in the beginning. Make sense? The second year, I spent exactly the same $12,000 in that market. Every single month, I would send out, $1,000 worth of mailers in that market. Second year, I made $79,000 in that market. I got more business because I had been doing that same mailer over time. The third year that I was in that market, I made $180,000 in that farm with the same $12,000 expense. And so one of the important keys to talk about when you are doing personal branding and that you have a message that you're trying to send out to everyone is that you do it consistently over time. I use the example of it's like turning on a hot water faucet. When you go home and you turn on your hot water faucet and you put your hand under the water, it's cold. It takes a little time to warm up. Sometimes it's 30 seconds, sometimes it's a minute, minute and a half or two. But if you let that water continue to run, pretty soon it will be hot, right? Then if you turn the faucet off and you come back a couple of minutes later, the water's still hot. That's sort of how your farming is. In the beginning of when you're doing these marketing campaigns and these personal branding campaigns, the return that you're going to get is not going to be hot. But you can't quit. You have to continue to do it over time. You have to allow the water to get hot. Make sense? Okay. So the last thing that I'm going to talk about in regards to being a household name and dominating your market is to make sure that you send out a consistent message. This is one of the things that, I think is really important. So a couple of really bad examples that I've seen over the years are people that market themselves as luxury agents. And then you go to their house and there's black and white copied flyers in the house. How can you be a luxury agent, with a black and white, poorly done photocopied flyer of the house? Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. A couple of other examples of doing, bad marketing is to have different pictures in your marketing. You want to have consistent pictures in it. I'll give you an example of that. These are all real life stories. Is that, when people go around, I've had people say to me, I see your signs around town, all over town. And I don't have that many signs in town. And there's always been people in town that have had more signs than me. Mike Dolan has more signs for me for years, and Tim Wood had more signs than me for years. But what I did have is I had the same exact photo on that Digest magazine, on my for sale signs, on my website, on my flyers. Every single thing that I did had a consistent branding message. It was the same, and it's simply the photo was the same. Does that make sense? So you want to make sure that what you're doing is, is a very, very consistent message, so that when somebody sees, one for sale sign, it seems like they've seen it all over the place, because the same picture that's on the sign is in all of your marketing, is on your business cards, and is on your website in other areas. Somehow it short circuits their brain. They see one sign with your picture on it and they go, I recognize that person, because they've seen the marketing message over and over and over in other different places. Okay. So I'm going to recap where we're at and then open it up for any questions if you guys have any. Is that, we want to to really have a reputation and have a persona in the marketplace that is conducive to having people call us. And it's a crafted message that you want to make sure that people that's going to make them want to call you. You want to have consistency in your message and in your behavior, to support that message. A couple of things that you can do in order to do that is survey some of the people that know you from business and ask them, what your, how would they describe you? That's a good idea. To have a consistent message where you're sending your pieces over and over and over again, and doing it over a long period of time. And make sure that you are always trying to find something that is unique, that only applies to you, that is valuable to your customers, so that you're the only person in the marketplace that's offering that. It gives you something always to talk to your clients about that will make them choose you over the competition. Make sense? Okay, any questions or any thoughts?
I have a quick question. I think it's quick. You were talking about the flyer being sent out, but then you were talking about like the same picture and the same branding. So are you sending that same, I know you said the just sold, so that'll obviously change, and Tim sent the calendar, so that changed, but it's the same consistent, like your picture was on it, just a different theme on the flyer, or how, I mean, trying to get an idea of the consistency, but also the branding part of it.
Okay. So I am not a marketing, the guy that puts the templates together and does consistency. I mean, there's a lot of, I mean, you can get consistent branding going through the remax.com website. I mean, you can get flyers there, and you can get just listed and just sold in your business card. You can order all of that stuff there. But what I'm talking about as far as consistency is that if you design a piece, that you use that same piece over. So for example, if you're sending out a just sold postcard, use the same format, use the same colors, use the same photo of yourself every single time that you do it, so that when they see one, they may not spend a lot of time reading it, but they've seen 5 or 6 other ones before. And after seeing it 5, 6, or 7 times, they're going to say, you know, I recognize I see this person all the time. It's the same. It's the same all the time. So if you take that idea with your mailer and you have that same picture, put the same picture on your for sale sign. Put the same picture on your business card. And I would urge you to use the same colors in all of the things that you're doing, so that when they see your mailer and they see your sign and they see your business card, they see the same picture, the same color schemes, and the same fonts, so that it's consistent. I mean, it all of a sudden it begins to imprint a brand in their name, is that, you know, Sarah's consistent. Sarah's message is the same every single time. It looks the same, it sounds the same, and it's the same person every time. Make sense? So that's what I'm talking about when I say consistency of message. Any other questions? I think, you know, Jonathan, have you guys, I don't know if you guys, did you guys hire a marketing person to make consistency with all the stuff you're doing?
I don't think Jessica has. She has the assistant right now doing a lot of the mailing and stuff like that. That's the main thing.
Okay.
I don't know, Anjanette, can you add to that at all? I mean, yeah, a lot of.
Not really. I mean, our team pictures were taken, you know, I mean, before you came along, they were all, you know, consistent with the same look and feel, but I haven't seen this postcards.
And then I think at the same time, Jessica like has really focused on that social media presence too. Like she needs to have an assistant, another assistant who would literally take her pictures or her own pictures and they'd post them, and just to have that daily top of mind presence where the followers, because just people, I meet people all the time that are like, hey, I know your wife, I follow her on Instagram. And so there you go. I mean, what an easy way to have a facial recognition, and then your brand and your business, but also your life and lifestyle is a big part of what people like to follow. Authenticity is a huge thing in sales, I think, nowadays. Is just finding genuine, authentic people.
Yeah. You know, it's always a, there is a debate. I mean, I think there's a little bit of a debate over how much personal stuff that you should share with your clients and how much you shouldn't. I mean, you know, it's an ongoing debate. I mean, people want to deal with real people. So, you know, being human is a good thing to be, you know, is to be human. But there's also the downside is if you're too human and not doing enough business, they'll connect with you on the human part, but, you know, they will, you know, somebody that's a little bit more business oriented, some of them will go to. So, and that's a good thing, is I don't spend a lot of time on social media. Personally, it's just something that, you know, I've gotten away with all of the craziness that's gone on in the world here over the last few years with it. But it is important. So when I talk about consistent branding, your photo, your color scheme, your fonts, and all of that stuff should be transferred from mailer to business card to for sale sign to your social media account. Okay. And another good example of doing something consistent with your social media is that, you know, finding something unique. And, you know, an example is if you just did a 30-second or a minute video saying, here's my market update for the week. And you have sort of like what Nicole does for the company when she does, the company update, video, is that if you get in the habit of doing every single Friday, you post a 1-minute video that talks about the market and talks about what's happening in town, and you do it consistently over and over and over and over and over, is that people will see it, they will recognize it. After a time, they will begin to expect it, and they will remember you. The one important thing to do is don't quit. Don't miss. If you're going to brand yourself as the guy that does the market update every single Friday on social media, then be the guy that does the market update every Friday on social media. Make sure that you keep doing it, because people will come to expect it. And if they come to expect it, that means they know who you are and they know what you stand for, and they're going to come back to see it. And when the time comes that they do want to buy or sell, they're going to remember you. And I think that's probably the way to end this conversation on dominating your market, is that when you have branded yourself and when you have given a consistent message about what's different about you and what's inviting about doing business with you, just because somebody doesn't want to buy or sell today doesn't mean that you've wasted your time with that branding. Because they might want to do it in 3 months, they might want to do it in 6 months, they might want to do it in 3 years. But if you're going to be in business in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, you want to make sure that you consistently do that now. And over time, you're going to reach a lot of people that are going to want to do business 2 years from now. And then you're going to find yourself in that position where people are calling you up and saying, hey, Jonathan, come out. I want to list my home with you. And that's what we want to do by building our personal branding. Okay. Well, thanks. If there's no other questions or no other comments and everything, I'll let you guys go here a few minutes early. And I appreciate you guys all showing up and participating.
Thank you for even having this. This is amazing. I mean, it's good information. I just have a couple comments on the social media thing. I know most people have a personal social media page and they have a business social media page. And like Mark said, it's kind of a weird line on what you consider what should be on each one. I did notice in a social media thing that I follow that this realtor is really into doors. I don't know what her thing is, but she takes pictures of front doors. She puts that on her personal, and then she makes comments like, I was selling this house, whatever, I like this door, but it keeps in top of mind that she's a realtor. And then she has her realtor page that has whatever her listings are and her, market update or whatever she puts on there. But you can blend it. If you find a really cool couch or something, hey, I found this really cool couch, push that on your personal, and don't let people forget you're a realtor. And then they can go and see your other stuff. I mean, there's ways to blend it without making it one or the other, or, without mixing it and having one thing that's always shooting out, the same stuff. Big thing I also learned at R4 is just video. You have to make it personal. I know people in Jay's business that are getting their Facebook pages shut down because they don't have video on there. They're not personal enough. And when I first started doing the Remax Big Bear page, it was just standard stuff I'd find on PhotoFi or Remax or whatever. And I came back from that and like, wow, we better start doing video or we might get shut down because we're not really participating or sending a message. So, just my 2 cents.
Very good. All right, everybody. Well, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll talk